Sebastian. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Galactic Nerd Outpost. I am your host, Joey McGee, aka Daikaiji Spacezilla, and today joining me is once again Forgotten Pharaoh,
Cheerio,
JSP,
Hello,
and Trev Tom.
Howdy, everybody.
And today what we're going to do, we're going to take a look at Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
I just gotta get one thing straight. I probably won't talk much during this review because I'm working on an assignment at the moment. So
Fair enough.
You don't want to work on your project then?
I mean, I want to be with you guys, but
Aww.
That's nice.
Alright. Well,
if you want to
do the movie.
Yeah, I gotta say, I liked it. I'm gonna have to say, if you liked the first Venom movie, you'll probably enjoy Let There Be Carnage. It has that same exact tone of Venom, with the semi-serious symbiote aspect with the jokes added onto it. But if you did not like the comedy side they added to Venom's character, then
they doubled down.
Yeah, you're not gonna like it here. Me personally, I prefer a very serious Venom. It's the one of him that I've grown to love, making him and Carnage my favorite Marvel characters. But I think it does work here because the jokes with Venom are funny. I liked his dynamic with Brock. I thought he added some really good humor to the table and how they worked off each other. Like, one joke that isn't exactly spoilery is they got fucking chickens. And they all Venom literally named them. I think Brock got them for Venom to eat because on one scene they're talking about that Brock is telling Venom to eat those chickens instead of eating human heads, and he's like, no, they are friends. And Brock's like, you gave them names?
Well, yeah, if you get a pet, you gotta give it a name. That's point one of keeping a pet.
Exactly, and I loved that. It was actually fucking adorable, if I'm being honest.
And it was Sonny and Cher at that.
Yeah, it added some sweet, lighthearted nature to Venom's generally dark character. And when I think of Venom, I usually think of when it comes to stuff like in a 90s show, it's portrayed in an alien-like version of demonic possession, and I always liked that. That's why he has this very dark voice, says stuff like us, and he was overall creepy. But I think the movie did a good... Yeah, I think the movie did a good job at keeping it accurate to the comic, while also going
Which
for a
comic? Because they used a lot in this, but that goes to different directions.
Yeah.
There's lots of different things they referenced. I'm going to have to keep an eye out whenever I see it again, because I can't even remember all of them.
I have a bunch of them written down, but I feel like I'll just get into the spoiler section.
Yeah, that should go into the spoiler section. And when it comes to the dynamic between Brock and Venom, without saying anything spoilery, though they're generally in a comedic way, they also added some pretty lighthearted drama to show that, well, not lighthearted, but drama that actually shown that Venom cares about Brock. Like, there's a part where he gets semi-down, and...
Don't get into scene details just yet. Put the spoiler.
Okay, but the way he is with Brock, to avoid spoiling anything, it's still fun, but they also blend a bit of that sweet friendship flavor that actually made me smile in the theater, to be honest. Showing that Venom does care about Brock as a person, and Brock cares about Venom.
Yeah. Like, that's kind of why, like, that was always why they spoke in the we plural sense. And that's kind of what I've always enjoyed at Venom. Not the demonic part of him. The fact that Venom himself is just an alien symbiote. He is a living creature that needs to function with someone else to survive. And he's someone who can relate to him on multiple instances. Where it's like, okay, then, you're not alone. We can do this together. Like, we are better together. Even if it is a bit of a toxic relationship. In the comics, it's toxic. In the movies, it's a toxic relationship. But it like you have to work with each other with a bit of give and take, and when they start communicating, it turns into they're finally getting together. They're working on their relationship.
Yep, and it does, and in a non-spoilery way, as the film goes on, they appreciate each other more and more. And there's some stuff, and there's events that happen in the movie that occur that leads to such development that makes it feel earned.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to Cletus Cassidy, I'm just gonna say I fucking loved him because Woody Harrelson was perfect as Cletus Cassidy. Like, the only people I think could play Cletus Cassidy, it comes to my mind, is Woody Harrelson, Brad Dourif, William Dafoe, and if Heath Ledger was still alive, Heath fucking Ledger.
That would have been interesting. Those would have been good picks.
Yeah, and of course, there's also the guy in the animated series who was perfect as Carnage.
He had a solid voice, which actually was interesting, because hearing this, Venom had a much deeper voice than I thought he would.
Yeah, he did. Like,
when Woody Harrelson was speaking with that high-pitched tone, I'm like, that's the Carnage I always have when I'm reading a comic. It's in that high-pitched, high-key, screech, I'm gonna kill you type of voice.
Well, yeah, thing about when it comes to Woody Harrelson, he's only played some fun, lighthearted, and comedic roles. He also has this thing about him that makes him overall terrifying and psychotic.
And he Cletus.
Yeah, it's Cletus Cassidy, and he portrayed that really great here.
Oh yeah. The main reason he got cast is Natural Born Killers. If you go back and see that movie, he's basically Cletus Cassidy in that.
I'll have to give that a watch because I think he was perfect for Cletus Cassidy. I haven't seen Natural Born Killers, but even when I heard that he was announced as Cletus Cassidy, I was thinking, yeah, this is great casting choice right here, because he just seemed like the type that could play someone that's straight up out of their mind. And Cletus Cassidy is insane. Joker is crazy, don't get me wrong, but Cletus Cassidy is twice as insane as the Joker. That's why in that crossover comic book, Joker, if I remember correctly, stopped working with him for that reason, because he was too much for him. And
I feel like that's a weak Joker then, because Joker's done way worse things than Carnage has ever done.
Has he killed babies?
Yes, he has.
Oh,
Joker has poisoned an entire Boy Scout troop before.
Oh shit. Well, either way, Cassidy is insane. He even wrote after killing them, he wrote their names in the blood. Shit, he even tracked someone down to see if he could find a name he doesn't like and killed that person for having that name. That's why he asked him, do you want to know why you're gonna die?
That seems simple. Like, Joker has an art to a lot of his crimes because he has to measure up to Batman, essentially. So his crimes have to be enough to throw off a genius detective.
That is true.
His kills are layered in different things of, I'm going to mess with you and kill you at the same time. Which is why a lot of his big schemes are highlighted so well. Like with Killing Joke, how he ended up torturing Gordon, shooting his daughter. That's still infamous because of how much damage it caused. Even if he killed very few people. And I think one of the Batman Returns comics, that's where he ends up gassing an entire Boy Scout group. No, yeah, he ends up killing an entire Boy Scout group with cotton candy.
Yeah, but I do know he tried to kill Spider-Man's son a few times in one of the comics.
True.
Yeah, he threw him out the window.
Joker has also successfully, technically killed a Batman child. Even if he came back.
That is true.
Temporarily, he was dead.
Yeah, but wasn't the child in the movie? I mean, wasn't the child in the comic just a kid?
It was Jason Todd, yeah. He was a Robin, which kind of makes it a little bit worse, but then again, people didn't like him anyway. We are getting
That's one issue I have with Jason Todd. How is it that this kid was trained by Batman and yet I remember now. Is because he was distracted by his mom or something, and then
there was an actual plot going behind it. But do you want to know the actual backstory why Jason Todd died?
Yeah, there's wait. Let me fin. Yeah, there was this phone number you had to call to see if whether or not you wanted him to live or die.
Yep. It was put up to the fans to decide if you wanted him to live or die. So because people didn't like Jason Todd so much, he stayed dead.
Huh. I guess you really shouldn't listen to fans most of the time.
You'd be surprised what fans can and can't do. Fans can make some very interesting stories.
And then they'll get mad at like Halloween 3 for not feeling like the other two movies. And
Or
then
they could be really good, like with Godzilla King of the Monsters of 2019, because Adam Wingard,
No,
the person who made
Mike,
Godzilla King of the Monsters, was a
Mike
fan of
Doherty.
Godzilla movies growing up, that he made that movie reminiscent to those old Showa movies. So for like critics, it didn't do well. But for fans of Godzilla, it did phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, most of them.
It has a pretty good approval rating amongst fans.
Yeah, exactly. It can go either way. Sometimes fans can hold things back and keep it from, freshening up every once in a while, but other times they can actually give it new life. You just have to figure out which avenue they're going to take, and sometimes you got to take a risk on it, but
Look at the Sonic movie. Look what happened. Like, because there's so much outrage over what Sonic looked like, they pushed the movie back and changed how he looked, and it was so much better.
Yeah. And when it comes to Venom Let There Be Carnage, I thought how they handled like back on the whole Cletus Cassidy thing, and I tried to tag Sosa in this, but I don't think he got the notification, so
Yeah.
But when it comes to Venom Let There Be Carnage, I thought it did a really good job with Cletus Cassidy. Even though Carnage usually is just as psychotic as Cassidy, while here Carnage felt more in his mind.
Mm-hmm.
He was just more evil, Carnage was. While when it comes to this movie, but when it comes to the comic, Carnage and Cassidy, their mindsets were very similar. Both were freaking insane that just enjoyed killing. So I understand why that might bug some, but I did enjoy the personality they gave Carnage by being more serious. Like, of course, everyone knows that the screams upset the symbiote. So there is this one scene where
yes, you're spoiling it. Every time you mention a scene, that's spoilers technically.
Okay.
I remember like hearing something from Death Battle on how the symbiotes or Clintar, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Like when they attach to a host, they also absorb their personalities, and that becomes their personality. But with the movies, it kind of feels different. Like the symbiotes have their own personality.
Yeah, the movies take a different route with it, because I guess Sony had the liberties first, so they were trying to change things up. Where Venom has his own personality, and that's what comes in comes into conflict with Eddie, because it's a little jarring thing of, I want to do this, I don't want to do this. And it actually plays a part of the movie later on during the climax, which I'm not going to get into, but y'all will, because I don't know if you're around for it.
Yeah.
So at least in the first movie, Venom, he would speak like in a deeper tone of voice for whoever was the host he was in at the current time, because Tom Hardy does the voice of Venom, so it's basically a deeper, more monstrous version of Eddie's voice. And then whenever he jumps into Anne, he speaks in her voice. So really, it all depends on the host that they're in. At least in the first movie. In this one, without spoiling anything, they kind of maintain the same voice throughout. But at least in that first one, they're basically an amplification of whoever their host is.
Well, yeah, like that's kind of how symbiotes work. They kind of pick up the abilities and personalities and traits of people they bond to, which is why in some of the comics too, when Venom bonded to Spider-Man, he ended up getting some of the good within him as well as all the abilities, which is why Venom's more prone to being an anti-hero or a good character. Where Carnage, since it was spawned onto Cletus, it's been insane ever since.
Well, yeah. Because what this movie did, it kind of gave the symbiote, the first movie as well, it kind of gave the symbiotes a bit of a mind of their own, which they did have in the comics as well, but at the same time, their conscience was highly connected to the person they were on.
Mm-hmm.
While in this movie, their consciences are completely separate. It's just all about whether they're compatible or not.
Yeah. What would you give the movie like overall?
Well, before we get into the ratings, I'd also like to go into the other spoilery aspects. The effects on Venom and Carnage do look good. They don't look outstanding. I've seen better, but they are organic, detailed, and have this slimy movement that I'd expect from the symbiotes.
I thought it looked better than the first films.
Huh?
I thought it looked better than the first films.
It's been a while since I've seen the first film, but if I remember correctly, the effects look just as good. They're nothing outstanding. I've seen better because when you look at them, you can tell they're CGI, but they do blend in with the environment enough to make everything seem convincing. Especially when Carnage was going around killing people, when it would change to CGI, it wasn't distracting because it did look good, especially with the somewhat creative ways Carnage went on with his murders, as creative as PG-13 will allow, I may add, in which this film, it does push the boundary of what I would say PG-13, modern PG-13. It pushes that boundary, but for what it's worth, I think they made the CGI effects look good on both symbiotes.
Yeah.
Anything you guys like to say about
Not on that specifically, just because. What did I put down for it? It looks okay. I got nothing entirely. The symbiotes look like what they would. Carnage looks spooky because Carnage needs to look a little bit creepy, but that's all I had.
Carnage always been a horror-like character. Like even when I was watching the movie, there was horror elements available, and I'll be honest. There was a little moments that are a tiny bit eerie, and I did appreciate that from this film.
Yeah, I don't look to graphics so much, but like I'll pay attention to it. But it's like okay, yeah, like it's enough that it's like I believe that these things are what you're trying to portray them to be.
Yeah, and when it comes to the music of the movie, it's nothing outstanding. Like, you have music that is a bit on the horror aspect, but I'd like that they added some music to add to the bit of eerie scenes that was there, but it was nothing unique. And then you have that typical standard Marvel-like music that, again...
like, depending on certain Marvel movies, they kind of jump out to me, and I'll remember them a lot more. But in most of them, I don't. This one, I don't remember the score so much. The only song I really remember was from the ending credits, and that was like the last theme, and that has like 4 singers to it.
Yeah, that's why I said when it comes to the music of the movie, it's the usual standard when it comes to Marvel. There are Marvel movies with better music, but it's the usual.
Remember, this still counts as Sony, I think.
Yeah, but it's still Marvel. I did think the music worked for what was there, but it's nothing that you'll have on your mind.
Nothing you'll remember.
Yeah. It's...
Marco Beltrami usually seems to be rather hit or miss. Sometimes he has some really good scores, and sometimes they're just kind of eh. I feel like at least based on this initial viewing, this score was kind of eh. But I'll probably, after I listen to it a couple more times, I'll have a more definite opinion.
Yeah, and when it comes to the music, it's okay. Like I said, it's not great. It's not great. It won't stick with you after watching the movie, but it's nothing that exactly sticks out. Like, you ever get the feeling when you're watching a movie and there's music on a certain scene, and you're like, yeah, this just does not fit.
No, a lot of times I won't pay attention to the music at all unless it is very, very jarring.
Yeah, when it comes to the music here, I think it worked, but it wasn't memorable. That's why for me it's that middle. It doesn't hurt the movie, but doesn't add to it much either.
If it's good, I remember it, and if it's not, I just don't.
Yep.
Understandable.
Best way of putting it.
And what, Galix?
What are we talking about?
The music.
Yeah, the music of Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
Yes, the music. I'll say this: it had its moments. Like there was some good music to it. I'm not gonna lie. The final battle OST, I actually really liked. You know, when Venom's climbing up the church and all that. I like that.
No, don't mention scenes just yet.
Yeah, but again, like it's not like something that you will actually pretty much remember. Unlike the first movie's soundtrack. The first movie had some pretty good soundtrack to it, especially
I agree.
Of course, similar like the second one. The first one also had a really good final battle soundtrack.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to butcher the guy's name. It's Ludwig something, but he also did the music for Black Panther. But I like the music for Venom more. I'll try and link it in the chat. The final battle music again. I'll mention. I'll link it whenever we're done. I just really like it.
Yeah, that final scene when Venom's climbing up on the rocket. That was some good music. I sometimes find myself listening to that music just because of how like epic it is, and then it just goes straight to the piano. The piano is just fire. And
you're speaking my language, man.
Yeah. And of course, the second one's final battle OST when he's climbing up the church. I liked it. I did like that. I liked that bit of the soundtrack. Other than that, again, agreeing with the original point that it does not have a memorable soundtrack. Yeah, in my opinion, aside from the final battle one.
Yeah. The final battle music was good. I did enjoy that. It wasn't anything too original, but it did have a certain energy to it that did enhance the battle a bit. But all the other music was okay. Like I said, I appreciated they added some darker music to add some eeriness to the horror element scenes. But it's not really anything much other than it's interesting to hear something darker in a Marvel film.
It's basically ambient noise. I mean, it's there just so that it's not quiet.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. It doesn't take away from the film, but it doesn't really add to it either.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also discussed the effects. What did you think of the effects, Galix?
I honestly think like the effects are actually better this time around. And especially for like with Venom, you know, nothing too much is different, you know, a bit less shiny than he was in the first film. I've noticed he's a bit less shiny. But for Carnage, I actually really like the effects on Carnage, especially like whenever whenever Cletus Cassidy would transform into Carnage, just that grotesque sort of like chilling way that he would always transform. You know, it was just sort of like really like gruesome looking. You know.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, during the first transformation. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
during the first transformation, it kind of has a little bit of John Carpenter's The Thing vibes. Not like a whole lot, but it is there just a little bit.
You know what? Yeah, you bring up an excellent point. It actually does.
Mm-hmm.
And Carnage is just this overall like special effects design, just like really skinny and just like all like just so like toned, but he's so massive. And I really liked, like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but whenever he had like his tendrils coming out, there was always just like these little like strips just still connecting to the main body still kind of. And then these little dangling drips of assumingly himself and the blood. Because if this was anything like in the comics, Carnage is a symbiote made from Cletus's blood.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you know he's able to do a lot more in terms of having like more tendrils and creating more out of his body. It's because he's not just a separate host. He's part of Cletus Cassidy, at least in the comics. In this one, you can like I've noticed like they were still separate rather than actually being together.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
But they played into that with the story for it. They could have done that a little more with the story, but I think I gotta jump off. I'm hearing something downstairs, so I'll let y'all have fun with this, okay?
Yeah.
What would you rate it?
Thanks for joining.
Oh, me? Overall, I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. Fun, enjoyable. Same thing I gave Venom 1 for the most part. You don't need to go see it if you really don't want to, but if you do see it, you'll probably enjoy yourself. Also, if you want to turn into a game, take a shot every time they say Lethal Protector. Pretty sure I have a more fun time when that happens.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll give it a 7 as well. I'll give it a 7 out of 10, which is the same rating I gave the first movie. It wasn't anything, like I said, it's not a masterpiece by any means necessary, but it is a good time. If you enjoyed the comedic aspect to Venom while also taking taking aspects from a bunch of different comics for accuracy, along with the humor for its own thing, I think you will enjoy the movie because it's funny. You get some really good fight scenes. Venom's relationship with Brock is cool, and the overall battle between him and Carnage is memorable and is overall cool to watch. So if there's one thing I do want to mention when it comes to Scream, I think she's supposed to be a symbiote in the
Shriek.
comics. Yes,
Yeah,
I think
someone else.
Scream is someone else entirely, not Shriek.
okay, Shriek.
Yeah,
Okay,
the two are completely unrelated. In this universe, Scream is dead.
okay.
Yeah,
Is
she was
Shriek
the
supposed
yellow
to be?
one in the first movie.
Yeah.
Is Shriek supposed to be in the symbiote too?
No, well,
Shriek is not a symbiote.
No,
Shriek is
okay,
as
so that was something. Okay, so any hardcore Marvel fan should not be pissed here because they keep that accurate.
yeah, no,
Well,
like
to be fair-
they were as accurate to Shriek's character as it is in the comics. You know,
Yeah, like, this is
superpower,
loosely based on,
super
like,
voice
loosely
powers.
Maximum Carnage and Lethal
Yeah.
Protector. But
Yeah.
that's kind of where they were going with it. So yeah, y'all have funs.
thanks for joining.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like I
To be fair, it's real easy to mix those two up because they're both words for the same thing. Shrieking or
for
screaming.
loud voice noises. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but the two could not be more separate.
Indeed, indeed.
yeah,
All right, that's all I needed to hear.
yeah. If you enjoy the first movie, I think you will enjoy this one because it's very similar, but it also keeps but also does its own way to separate it. It still keeps that same tone that made the first one fun, but also the same stuff that also upsets certain fans, like no Spider-Man and
Well,
comedic-
now we know the reason
Wait,
for no
wait,
Spider-Man.
don't say anything.
Yeah, we'll be getting into spoilers soon.
Yeah.
But it is a solid film, so I'd say go out and see it. I had a really good time. The theater is a magical place for me in general. Like, even if I'm watching a shitty movie, just being there will actually enhance my mood a bit, even if the movie sucks. But this is a good movie, and I do recommend going to see it with the wonderful theatrical experience added on to that.
Oh yeah. I haven't seen a movie in theaters since 2019, so this was pretty special.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
I can't go that long without going to the theater. It's one of my happy places.
I had to
Like-
come back for Venom and Carnage. They're my boys.
Yes, they are. They're my favorite Marvel characters.
And it's actually again like an enjoyable film. I actually enjoyed watching it. I wouldn't. It's on terms of like scaling. It's kind of like for me. It's on par with the first one.
Agreed.
And of course, it has its own elements to it, its own moments. Definitely, of course,
like the
it has
first one. Yeah, like the first one wasn't horror. This one had quite a bit of horror elements that actually were creepy and intense.
I actually enjoyed Woody Harrelson's performance as Cletus Cassidy. When just moments where he just makes no fucking sense, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of the point. I mean, he's a crazed serial killer. He's not supposed to be making sense the entire time.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and the first movie was pretty much more sci-fi.
Yeah.
But once you introduce Carnage, you're definitely leaning more in the horror direction.
You definitely.
Yeah. Like even in the '90s kid show, that he was still pretty fucked up.
Oh yeah, definitely. Just the way, like his eyes, man. Just the way he talked in his eyes. It was all like, woo.
That laugh.
Yeah, and
Definitely that laugh.
And even though they didn't show any murders in the show, they still implied it.
Well, they
Just the way-
basically had him drain the life force instead of actually butchering people, but I mean, he's still killing people. It's just,
Exactly.
yeah.
which is one of Carnage's signature abilities, is being able to drain the life force from people. I don't
Indeed.
think if they did incorporate it in some way in Let There Be Carnage, I haven't seen it. I think probably maybe a couple of times, but not entirely. And then he, of course, and then he just stuck with the classic bite the head off ordeal. Can't go wrong with that.
Yes. So what do you guys rate this?
I guess I'll go first. So I'm gonna have to. I usually see something a couple times before I have a definite opinion, but for now, I think it's gonna be a 7, because I think the first movie, because I've seen it so much, is like an 8 or 9, and that's mainly because I was impressed with the fact that they made a, in my opinion, compelling movie without Spider-Man.
I agree. They did make a compelling film. They did manage to take a character that's usually connected to a beloved hero and
make him his own thing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
which is which is great, because Venom over the years has just become a beloved icon, and Venom has had his own stories before, like the Agent Venom story, Venom in Space stories. Hell, whenever he's had different hosts other than Eddie Brock, like Flash Thompson, or when and of course when he was anti-Venom, he wasn't anti-Venom, but I forgot, they're completely two different things. But Venom over the years has become his own character, and it's nice to see a couple of movies that really focus on the character of Venom, because the symbiote is Venom.
Yes.
And of course, granted, like it wasn't really he didn't like early, like in the beginning of his entire career, he wasn't really given that much that name and such, as his character was defined after bonding with Spider-Man.
Yep.
But now it's nice to see a character like Venom and Carnage be their own things, while also still, of course, paying homage to their comeuppances and whatnot.
Yeah.
And anyway, of course, like definitely with what's gonna happen once we get into the spoiler bits, we know what's gonna happen now. And frankly, it's just can't wait.
Agreed. Carry on, Trevor, about your final thoughts and ratings.
For now it's gonna be a 7. I really enjoyed it. It's great to finally see Carnage almost 30 years after he first appeared in comic books. We finally got him. But then again, the special effects, we probably couldn't have done it back in the day to where it would look great. And now it looks pretty good. Great too, pretty good. So for now it's going to be a 7. It'll probably go up whenever I watch it some more times, but for now it's 7.
Understandable. I do enjoy. I'm probably going to enjoy watching it more, but this will always be the best experience for me because I love going to the movie theater. Like, if I was rating by the movie theater experience, it would be like an 8 or 9. But whenever I see a movie, I always shave off a bit of the entertainment scale to get any biases off of what I would rate it without that wonderful theatrical experience enhancements.
All right.
Now you go on the Galix.
So for final ratings for me, like I said, for me, it's on level with the first one in terms of enjoyment and being quite an amusing movie. So I would point it at a 7.5, as I've pit the first movie, 7.5. Far not an exact masterpiece, obviously. It has its flaws, as do all movies do, but it still is an enjoyable film, which I overall enjoyed. I enjoyed the comedy. I enjoyed the more horror aspects. I just enjoyed seeing my two favorite symbiotes on the same screen, just duking it out. Love seeing Carnage, finally seeing him have his theatrical live action movie release, which he and Venom both deserve for being part of, just being part of everyone's lives for so long. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's not like we haven't seen Carnage in like years. He's had his TV appearances, he's had his video game appearances, but for him to finally have his own movie appearance, just great. Overall, I enjoyed the actors. The cast were outstanding. Tom Hardy, amazing actor, as always. Woody Harrelson, amazing actor as always. God, I can never remember the actress for Shriek. I can never remember her name.
Naomi Harris.
Naomi Harris, amazing actress. I love her a lot. A really great actress. And of course, and overall, the other characters, they were fine as well. And the special effects, I think, have gotten better since the first Venom came out, looking a bit more realistic than before. Overall, again, 7.5.
Okay,
7.5 out of 10 would recommend.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay, JSP, what is your final thoughts and ratings?
Well, I did enjoy it more than the last film. So, although there are some issues I had, I'm going to give it 3.5 stars for entertaining me. I thought some of the humor was, kind of cringy, but some of it was good. And I don't know if this counts as a spoiler. I don't think it does, but I wasn't a huge fan of Carnage's voice.
That's not a spoiler at all.
Okay.
Oh, can we talk about it? Can we talk about it, or we're gonna save that?
I wouldn't call it a spoiler, really.
All right.
Well, it was actually a bit deeper than I expected. I kind of joked and said that it reminded me of Duke Nukem, like the video game character.
Yeah.
just a little bit, not like spot on, but it kind of had that tone to it. So I was like, oh, okay, this is a little deeper than I was expecting. But I mean, it worked. I mean, the more I heard it, it was like,
yeah. For me, at first, I wasn't entirely sure about it because we're all used to him having like that high-pitched, crazed voice, and that's due to the fact of him being, part of Cletus Cassidy, where one goes, so goes the other, as you know.
Yeah,
so,
well, in these movies,
but of course, in this movie, Carnage was still a separate being aside from being, completely one with Cletus. As again, like at first I wasn't sure about it, but then I was like, you know what? It's its own thing. It actually kind of works. He's bigger, he's badder. He would.
Yeah.
It's not too deep. If it was like really deep, like Riot or Venom, then it would have been a problem. But I don't think it was that deep. I think
I thought it worked.
Yeah, it worked. It worked for once you get used to hearing it, it's like, you know what? This actually works out pretty well. I'm not gonna lie. I actually like this bigger, badder, more darker incarnation of Carnage.
Yeah.
Indeed.
There are some issues I had, but are we going to get into the spoilers or
after you give your rating?
I think I did. I said 3.5 stars.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah. On to the spoilers. I'll let Trev Tom go first here.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of this. I've seen some people be upset by this, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, this is what they're doing. But, usually in the comic books and the animated series, Carnage and Cletus are pretty much one and the same. They're bonded. Right. They're bonded so closely that they don't refer to themselves as we. They say I. But in this movie, like Galix was saying, they're still separate, and they're not even really in sync with each other. And it dawned on me, of course, it's very obvious by the third act that you realize the reason they did that is because they want to elevate the importance of Eddie and Venom's bond.
Right.
He even said it, they're not symbiotic, and we are. We're the lethal protector. And
take a shot.
Yeah, take a shot. Again, we were talking about the music earlier. I wish they had brought back that final battle music from the first one. Whenever they said, we're the lethal protector, and he pushed off the rock, and then he went to go kick his ass, I would have been like, yeah, go and do it. But no, go ahead, Joey.
For speaking of that scene of where you're saying we're the lethal protector, I really liked that scene because it had a lot of emotional weight going for it, as Venom and Brock just reconnected after already dealing with so much drama with one another, and they realized they needed each other. They're compatible, while Cassidy and Carnage were not, because Cassidy is insane, while Carnage, he's just evil. and it really had a lot of emotion going for it, like, we're the lethal protector, and then he came up and kicked Carnage's ass.
Yeah, it's their fuck yeah moment, pretty much.
Oh,
Yeah, and the music that played during that scene
Their second
was
win
good.
is like, let's get this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And the music that played during that scene was really good. I know I said most of the music is average in the movie, but the music in that scene I thought was the best because it helped with the emotional aspect to them finally reconnecting, along with having a more epic sound to it as they were about to finally beat Carnage and Cletus.
Yep. So
Yeah.
should we talk about the fact that they break up, them and Eddie?
Yes, that. I actually really want to go on about that. When it comes to their relationship in the movie in general, I've been waiting to get into the spoilers on this aspect. I loved how it was handled here because, for example, that the girl that he had in the first movie, I forget her name, she left. Who?
Anne?
Yeah, Anne. Yep. She left him. She left Brock because, well, the symbiote thing was making it where a lot of dangerous acts would occur in her life, and she didn't want that anymore. So she broke up with Eddie and got engaged to another guy, and that made Eddie depressed. And when it came to this aspect, I really liked it because it showed that Venom cared about Brock as a person. He was doing whatever he can to try to comfort him,
which is one of Venom's aspects. He cares. He actually cares about his hosts, which is why he's considered a loser back on his home planet, because he actually cares about his hosts.
Yep, while the other symbiotes do not.
Mm-hmm. There is one thing. Am I echoing?
Yeah, a little bit.
There's one thing you kind of got wrong. Anne actually left Eddie because he
used her.
Yeah.
Okay. It's been like at least 2 weeks since I went to almost 2 weeks. It's been over a week since I seen the movie, so there's some things I might not remember right.
In the first movie, Eddie actually used her connections through the DA and whatnot to try and get dirt on the Life Foundation in the first movie, way before the symbiotes showed up. And because of that, not only did he cost himself his job, he cost her job, which she wouldn't be with that anymore. So that's why she broke up with him, and then he was depressed. And Venom showed up, yada yada, all the way up to now.
Yeah, and I like that because you had Venom doing whatever he can to comfort him. You had it where he had the more serious comfort moment being right when Eddie was pretty much being recklessly driving on his motorcycle, not really caring if he, got ran over or something. And then the next day, it actually added some good context for the humor, too, as usually when Venom's cracking jokes, it's just there for a laugh, which is fine. I appreciate that. But I like that when they added a more serious aspect to why the comedy came in was to make Brock feel better, even though in the end he just ended up pissing Brock off more, which eventually ended up doing some dumb shit that led to them being somewhat breaking up.
And I really liked that this movie actually really focused on the fact that they are, even though they're symbiotic, they are still two separate beings. Eddie wants to live his life in peace, but Venom, as he said, he's a predator. He needs to be out there. He needs to be doing stuff. He needs to be free. And I really liked that it really showed him the fact that Eddie was still, even though he accepted Venom and whatnot, he's still struggling to share his life with him. Not really realizing the true meanings of symbiotism, of what's the word? Symbiotism? Symbiosis. Yeah, that's the one. Of achieving true symbiosis until much later.
Yeah. And it takes till the end of the movie for them to actually completely understand each other and realize they needed one another.
Well, I also like
Peter Parker shows up.
I like that the source of the conflict is the fact that even though Eddie told Venom, we're going to go out there and eat bad guys, well, they make note of the fact that the FBI is aware of them now because of, what happened in the final battle in the first movie. They're like, hey, people are saying they're seeing these strange creatures running around,
Yeah.
So Eddie's like, we can't just go out there and do whatever because, they're after us. And
I like that too. I like that they included like the actions of the first movie had consequences in the second movie, and not a lot of like sequels really do that much. Not a lot of movies do that. Really show the consequences of the first movie affecting them later on in a direct sequel, at least. Like maybe like later down the line, but like in a direct sequel, then yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to that, I do like how they did that. And another thing about the relationship, their parting actually made me fear for Brock a bit because Cletus Cassidy ended up getting a symbiote right after Brock lost his. So the fact that he pretty much had it out for Eddie after not including why he killed his family in there as a kid, there's some needed tension in there. Like, moment he sees the news, moment he goes on the news and they're saying that the serial killer Cassidy has escaped, it plays this somewhat dark music, if I remember correctly, to pretty much show that he's coming for Brock. And I'll be honest, I felt a little unsettled by that because it's like he is vulnerable now. He does not have Venom to protect him.
Yeah.
That's also why they did it too. Is if they're separated, then oh crap, Carnage shows up. They got to reunite. So, so how did we feel about how they showed Cletus's origin? I actually really liked that scene, the back and forth. Or it was Eddie reading the letter, and they showed it in animation. How'd y'all feel about that?
I actually like that.
I thought it was creative.
Yeah, I liked it. It kind of reminded me how in the movie Krampus, not sure how many of you watched that. When they did the past of when the old lady, her past experience with Krampus when she was a kid, when she wished everyone would go away, and wish was granted. And I liked it there. I also like it here because just like in Krampus, it creates a unique atmosphere that you don't really see much in films because it's not really done much that often.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it was actually, I like I said, it's very like JSP said, it's very creative. It was a unique take and whatnot. I actually, it was really good. Like it was a really good animation. Not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, the animation it was great.
Yeah.
And they also checked off all the points. Pushed grandma down the stairs, electrocuted mom, dad was abusive. Stuff like that. I think they even mentioned the dog. He has a very specific origin in the comic books, and you're like, damn, this kid's kind of fucked up.
Oh yeah, they definitely got origin down to the T.
Yeah, but I also liked how they introduced Frances Barrison. Shriek. They actually made it to where she was part of his life from the get-go. In Maximum Carnage, they just meet each other whenever he's escaping from Ravencroft. But here, they've known each other their whole lives, and I thought that was pretty sweet.
Oh yeah, definitely. Since from the beginning they were always together as a couple, so it's nice to see how that twisted love for each other originated.
And once again, that goes back to natural born killers, which, that's, again, I was telling them earlier, that's why Woody Harrelson was cast in this role, because he pretty much played Cletus already.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do log in some gripes I had, like, when characters die, like, in public, like, a bunch of people being around, they're like a bunch of fucking retarded Grand Theft Auto characters. They do nothing, just go around doing their own business. No one bats a fucking eye, even if someone just falls down to their death. That did bother me. You also have Huh?
Which part was that?
There's two parts, actually. Like, when Venom was at this party, he ended up leaving this one person because they weren't compatible, so the person fell down dead.
Oh, yeah.
And there's also a part where they're on the road where there's a bunch of cars driving. Cletus Cassidy throws the car over. Nobody bats an eye.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Another part I have an issue with is when they go to when Cletus Cassidy walks in the store, he's like the most wanted fucking man there. And the guy's like, "How you doing, sir?" And then he goes over, lets him walk up and knock him down. It's like, what the fuck? You think you would have recognized this guy?
Store clerk asks politely how he could help Cletus.
Yeah.
And I took that personally.
Yeah. It's like, he should have known who he was. Like, you don't have to watch the news to know when a killer that famous is out on the loose. I don't watch the news.
Hell, he's on the news and newspaper. Like, that's how you know it's pretty big fucking news if it's also on something analog like newspapers.
Yeah, people should have recognized him, and that guy just ended up letting him get close enough to fucking kill him.
Well, how about the elephant in the room is the fact that it seems like they actually killed Cletus off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually did not mind that because when he's saying, I loved how it was handled. Like, he was just saying that he just wanted to be Venom's friend, and then Venom's
like, fuck this guy.
Yeah, I love that part. That was
I'm sick of your crazy serial killer shit.
Yeah, I did not mind that. I thought the way they handled it was funny, and it worked.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed with the fact that they did kill both Carnage and Cletus off.
Yeah, I get
it would have been nice to see, like, I don't know, they got like captured. You know, they were separated. At least, you know, maybe Carnage would have retreated, or Carnage may come back in some way or another.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Carnage has had other hosts aside from Cletus.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, exactly. The symbiote can actually come back because, you know, it might separate from Venom because that's actually happening in the books. But, you know, in terms of Cletus, you know, one way that he's able to come back in the comic books is the fact that, you know, they're so bonded that if a piece of the symbiote survives, then
so does Cletus.
Yeah, it can regenerate both of them. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case in this movie. So it's kind of like, well, now that they're doing the whole MCU thing, is there like a variant of Cletus out there?
Probably. Probably. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
There could be another Cletus Cassidy out there waiting for Carnage to show up and be like, hey, let's wreak some carnage.
Yeah. Well, I do agree that it's a shame that kind of kills off, doesn't kill off all potential for future use, but it does kill off a bit of it. So I do see the disappointment there. But when it comes to how it was executed, I didn't mind it.
Yeah,
I mean, what we got was good. What we got was good, but of course, I always want more. So
yeah. I get that. I get that.
So, what do we think about Toxin?
Oh, yes, indeed. I'm not even sure if they're going to do him straight up or not because, you know, his eyes were glowing at the end, which is kind of like how Shriek manifested her powers. I don't know if they're going to do a straight up adaptation of him or not because I don't think that factors into Toxin at all unless they change him for the movie. But I mean, that's kind of the conclusion you would come to is that he's on the way. He might even be what, you know, when they do a Spider-Man and Venom movie, he might even be what they have to unite against, or maybe because he's a good character, a hero in the comic books. But what they might do, the change is they might have Spider-Man and Venom try and bring him over to the good side. That's something that I was thinking.
Yeah.
Toxin's a hero?
Yeah, because being bonded to Patrick Mulligan, the cop, he pretty much learned how to be a hero, how to be like a heroic character, quote unquote. You know?
Yeah.
He learned from Patrick Mulligan like the good and the bad and whatnot, other than just being, you know, just straight up evil right out of the way. Because from the comics, it's like that. It's like every symbiote that breaks off from its parent to bond with another learns from that host, because it's a newborn, you know, it's just learning things, so it takes from its host. Like Carnage in the comics, he took on Cletus Cassidy's homicidal serial nature.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, with Toxin, he learned from Patrick how to be more of a good guy than a bad guy.
Exactly. And see, we're dealing with symbiotes, and even if they're good, quote unquote, like Venom, Toxin, what have you, they're still vicious aliens, and sometimes they get out of control. So,
Yeah.
that might be an angle they go with, but eventually he'll end up good. I don't know. Clearly, he's on the chessboard, so to speak. They're thinking
He's
about
on the way.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see if that's. I don't know when they're going to do the crossover with Spider-Man. I don't know if it's going to be soon or down the road. They probably want to do it ASAP. But
I would think that if it's not going to be in No Way Home, they're probably going to hint at it. Probably like maybe like an end credit scene or a mid credit scene where like maybe like they fixed the whole thing, but maybe not all the way. Where Venom still sticks around, and then it just goes on from there. Or he may show up in No Way Home as maybe ally or not. We don't really know.
Speaking of the MCU tie-ins, I was right, motherfuckers, because that's what it was. That's the.
I'm disappointed in myself that seeing the whole they're going with the whole multiverse thing. It never even dawned on me that could be what it actually is. Like instead of actually being part of the MCU, it's actually just a whole other universe where it's like just the symbiotes or other things, and then he just gets brought into it. I'm disappointed in myself, and I didn't think of that.
I did, because I already came to the thought that okay, Venom is in a Venom at the end of the first Venom, they put into the Spider-Verse as another universe. And when it came to now we're getting a Spider-Man movie that actually is going with this whole Spider-Verse concept. They are tying, and I was like, okay, they are tying Venom and Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse with the MCU with this shit. Yeah. And everyone was like that, oh, they're not doing that. You're too hyped about this, Joey. And it's like, I was right, bitches. I was fucking right.
Well,
that's really the only way they can do it. That's really the only way they can do it, unless they reveal that there's a Spider-Man in that universe already. A lot of people wanted it to be Andrew Garfield's, Spider-Man to be in the Venom universe, but everybody wants to see Tom Holland. So, the only way to do that is for him to jump into the universe.
This is for them to be pretty much brought into the MCU world.
Exactly.
And of course, you know what this means. This also means, considering that Venom, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and MCU, all the universes are connected in some way. That also means Spider-Man is a part of the MCU now too, since he's gonna probably Spider-Man, the Japanese, since he's gonna be in Into the Spider-Verse too. I think that's been confirmed.
Yes, my favorite Spider-Man. He brings in fucking machine guns. He don't play.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That was
I
amazing.
love toys. I love toy Spider-Man. So did Stan Lee, actually.
It was a different take, to be sure.
It was just to see the characters, having life outside of the comics, because that was pretty rare back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that. And fun fact, there was actually planned to be the creator, the owner of Toei at the time, and Stan Lee were actually discussing to have a second season where they kind of meshed more elements from the American Spider-Man comics, and unfortunately that never happened. But I would have loved to have seen that, because we would have got more villains like Venom, Dr. Octopus, the Green Goblin.
Which now we're starting to get now we're starting to get all that. And now this pretty much confirms that the Doc Ock we saw in the No Way Home trailer is without a doubt Tobey Maguire's Doc Ock, and not just, it just so happens to be the same guy with, that has the same thing, kind of like how J. Jonah Jameson is the exact same. But I'd like to think that throughout the entire multiverse, I like to think that J. Jonah Jameson is a multiverse singularity, where throughout all the multiverse, there's just one J. Jonah Jameson. That's that guy. Oh, what's the name of that actor?
Oh,
J.K.
crap.
Simmons.
K. Simmons. There we go. Yeah.
J.K. Simmons. Just him, only him. He's a multiversal singularity, and throughout
So
all the
Galix.
entire multiple worlds, it's just him.
So Galix,
Yeah.
what you're saying is that he's a Nexus being. Because that was what was introduced in WandaVision, is that Wanda is supposed to be a Nexus being. She's like a very, a center point for the universes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what. J. Jonah Jameson is a Nexus being.
Which, when it comes to the end, the after credit scene, I thought it was a really, really good after credit, as they handled it very well. It was surprising, even though I kind of predicted this. It was handled in a surprising manner that just made the build-up for No Way Home even more exciting than I originally was. Which is saying a lot, because I was already fucking excited for No Way Home.
Yeah.
But then you have to think about it. Like when in that after credit scene, when the whole thing changed and the news came on and it was showing Spider-Man as Peter Parker as Spider-Man, you have to think, is this just Jonah like reliving like an old topic, or did Venom come into this world just as Peter Parker was unmasked as Spider-Man? And if that's so, then Venom would have had to come into this world through a different means other than what we saw in the No Way Home trailer, where Peter pretty much messed up the spell and started colliding everything together. If that's the case, what brought Venom to the MCU world?
I heard a theory about this. Like in both the season finale of WandaVision and Loki, like at the exact same time, like approximately at 26 minutes or something, I believe. I'll have to look again, but either way, like that's when the multiverses started to collide, and like in the Loki finale, Kang realized like something is wrong, and like he's not in control or something.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. That sounds familiar.
Oh, thank God.
I haven't seen Loki yet, so I don't know.
Well,
I've heard about it. I haven't watched it all the way through yet, but
I liked it. It's a bit slow at times, and there are some dumb moments, but I do like it. I don't intend to watch WandaVision or Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like, I heard WandaVision was good at first, and then later on it started to suck. And I heard my sister said that when she tried to watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, she fell asleep after like 20 minutes, and it was like at noon. And I was like, okay, I guess it's really boring.
To me, both WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, they both start out a little slow in the beginning, but then it picks up midway, and they start to get really good.
so sorry, go ahead.
I haven't watched any Marvel show yet. Any MCU related show yet, though I do plan to.
I'm gonna watch all of them at some point. I had to watch WandaVision right away because frankly, they're two of my favorite characters in the MCU. Wanda is Bae.
I agree.
So,
I fucking agree. Elizabeth Olsen is fucking hot, so
exactly.
Wait, so is it my turn to share my gripes, or is it still Galix's turn?
Was I sharing gripes?
I don't know. I thought that's what we were.
Give gripes whenever you have anything on your mind. This
whole thing is not coordinated at all.
Yeah,
We got lost in the weeds.
Yeah, it's literally just a group of nerds discussing their perspective on a movie.
But yeah, I'm done talking, so you can go ahead and start talking.
All right. All right. Well, I do have some more gripes with this movie. Like, one of the obvious ones is like, I'm gonna be very honest. I'm not a huge fan of Carnage, but I heard he's like violent as hell.
Oh, he is. He was inspired by the Joker, and he is fucking insane. Which is one of the reasons I love Carnage. He's terrifying.
Yeah, but if you think about it, it's like he really like if you really think about his entire like career throughout the comic books and whatnot, he actually, despite being seen as like an insane figure, he hasn't actually really done a lot of like terrible stuff. You know, is like he's actually pretty tame, despite what he says and despite what he says and says he does. He's actually pretty kind of tame, at least
So,
from the comics I've read.
yeah,
I
so the
don't
best
know.
way.
He literally kills a group of babies, and even grabs Spider-Man's son in the comic, throws him out the window, who's also a baby, tries to kill him.
Like I said, he's a little tame.
So the best way to look at this is that Venom was pretty much the Spider-Man equivalent of what Bane or Doomsday was for Batman and Superman. So if they, in order to escalate the threat, to make Venom look tame by comparison, they had to create Carnage, who was a literal serial killer and had no limits or anything. So basically, Venom was bad news, and Carnage was even worse.
news.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because he's a serial killer. He also, what he did is, when he kills people, he'd write their name in their blood, which the animated series didn't exactly show or tell, but it implied it.
Yep.
Like, so there's a lot of things. If they would have went all out with Carnage's character in this movie, it would have been fucking rated R.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's another issue I had.
Yeah,
Well,
I was a little disappointed that this was, despite how it said it was going to go with the more horror aspect, there was rarely anything like that I've seen. It had some horror moments, but not as much as you think it was gonna. And of course, it was not rated R.
Yeah,
it was
like
surface
everyone
level.
thought and was hoping for.
Yeah,
Well,
it was
I'm
surface
perfectly-
level pretty much.
I'm fine with them going with a more tame direction, as I think the film did push what modern PG-13 is capable of, which, don't get me wrong, PG-13 back in the day was a lot worse, but if we're going by today's standards, this is pushing it to rated R, and I thought they did a good job at showing what the rating allowed them for this character.
So we have to consider that they had to factor in what made the first movie successful, right? And it was PG-13, the comedy. Everybody really liked the relationship between Eddie and Venom. So they were obviously going to bring that back. So yeah, it was all about really striking a balance. And everybody's opinions on this varies. For some people it didn't work, for others it did. It was okay. Myself, I'm kind of a simp for these characters, so I'm just glad to see them in some form that's relatively faithful. And I mean, I was pleased. Could it have been better? Of course. But I mean, I was still happy with what I got.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. It's not a masterpiece by any means, but I do enjoy it. I actually enjoy it about as much as I do a lot of the MCU films. It's not a masterpiece, but it's pretty good and a very fun experience that I think warrants a theoretical viewing if you enjoy the movie house as much as I do.
It's a nice film. It's a nice film that you'll want to watch again at some point in the
Yeah,
future.
I'm gonna pick it up on I'm gonna pick it up on Blu-ray or 4K when it's released because I do want to own it. I still gotta pick up the first movie because
I got the first movie, so I need the second one for sure.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Honestly, I was more entertained by this movie than I was with Shang-Chi.
That's a controversial opinion, I think, and a lot of people love Shang-Chi. I haven't seen it yet, but I heard it's gonna be free on Disney Plus soon, so might as well just watch it there.
November. Yeah,
Wait,
in
you haven't
November
seen it
it's
yet?
dropping.
Huh?
You haven't seen it yet?
Yeah, I was planning to see it last month, but some stuff in life occurred, and then when I was going to see it this month, it was announced that it was going to be free on Disney Plus. It's like, you know what? I'll just wait. I'll just watch it there.
Yeah, it's gonna be free on November 12th.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was again. I enjoyed Shang-Chi. I think it was a nice takeaway from the main Marvel cast of like Thor and Iron Man and Captain America and all that. It was a nice shy away from them to really see all these other powerful characters that also make up the Marvel universe.
Oh yeah, I want to see it. I want to see it. It's something fresh, and it's going to expand that universe. So yeah,
Because you can milk the same characters again over again for so long, especially especially when these actors have limited contracts to these characters. So
Yeah.
of course, now Marvel has got to expand its horizons throughout the entire thing. Bring in new characters. There's plenty more heroes and villains other than just the main guy, the main faces of Iron Man and Captain America and Thor and the Hulk. Past the Avengers, past the Guardians. There's the Marvel universe is vast, and even with the multiverse thing, it's even vaster. So, Marvel, and now that Marvel is really actually starting to expand its horizons a little bit to different people, I think that, it's a good thing, and it's going to keep them in the movie business for a little while longer.
Yeah. I mean, they have a good thing going. They have the goodwill of the audience. So they just need to keep on cranking out these things so that we keep on seeing these characters that we probably never would have seen in a movie otherwise.
Yeah.
Speaking of upcoming Marvel movies, can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah,
Of course.
Is anyone actually excited for Eternals?
I actually am.
I don't think it's been advertised very well, but if you know anything about the comic books and how important they are to the Marvel universe or what they lead into, they're basically tied into, or their creators are tied into the X-Men. That's where the source of the mutant gene comes from, and everything is from the Celestials, which they also created the Eternals.
Yeah, the Celestials made the mutants, the Eternals, and then the Kree made the Inhumans.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So I don't think it's been advertised very well, but I want to see it. I like the
I want
fact
to see it too.
I like the fact that it has a pretty good length. It's not going to, well, see, like for this movie, the shortness was fine because, it got right to the point. But there's some movies that need to breathe. And, the Eternals runtime is like at least 2.5 hours, I think, somewhere around there. So it's probably going to cover a lot of ground. I think it's going to be very important moving forward for what they have planned for Phase 4 and 5 and beyond.
Oh, I think most of the Marvel movies are a bit on the lengthy side, aren't they?
Yeah,
yeah, more or less. Mostly like the Avengers movies; those are the longest usually. But
yeah, well, Venom is like an hour and some, which worked in the film's case, as the movie moved at a slope at a good pace. It moved at a very good pace, as it was able to go in with the development of Brock and the symbiotes of relationship by slowly breaking them up, then slowly showing the bad things that came aboard of them not being together, and then slowly building them back together, being better than ever.
Yeah. JSP, what else did you want to say about future Marvel stuff?
Honestly, I think after Spider-Man, I'm gonna quit there, although that's probably not gonna stop my other family members from wanting me to see it with them. You know what? I don't know what I'm saying. I'll probably just watch the other movies, even though there's a high chance they'll be crap.
No, I got you. I'm going to keep on watching until something loses me, and then it's like, okay, now it's diminishing returns. It's time to jump off the ride.
Yeah, I'm going to keep watching them too because I do enjoy the Marvel movies. Am I exactly excited for most of them at this point, aside from a few exceptions? No, but I do enjoy them when they're on for the vast majority of the time. They're good, great even. So,
yeah,
I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, I'm gonna continue to watch the Marvel movies that come out, mainly because it's a tradition with me and I've been since the very beginning with Iron Man, been going to theaters to watch the Marvel movies that have come out. So it's basically tradition for me. So I got to keep it up.
No, I got you. And it gets a little bit more Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It gets a little bit more exhaustive now because we, if we want to keep up with what's going on, we have to also watch the shows, which are pretty much just movies broken up into 8 episodes.
Right.
So it becomes pretty. It's a lot of content to take in.
Especially now when they're starting to become more expanding in widestream with the more celestial aspect of like the more cosmic aspect of the Marvel universe. You know,
Yeah, I still
now
gotta
it's starting to get into the big, like literally the big guys. You know, starting to come like Eson the Searcher and all those other Celestials. You know, they were mentioned, but now it's actually really starting to focus on them and what they're. And I really think that a big name Celestial, or possibly maybe even another big name that is known for, you know, devouring planets, shall we say, is coming up as the next big bad that everyone has to fight against.
So let me ask y'all this, and tying it back to Venom. This is probably going to be a little bit deep cut because he's a relatively new character, but it kind of ties into all this cosmic stuff. Do you think we're going to see Null, the symbiote god, at some point?
Oh, you know what? That's right.
If we do, that would be badass.
Because the symbiotes were originally created to kill Celestials, were they not?
Exactly, and also Null. So Nowhere, you know, in Guardians of the Galaxy, the big celestial head that they go to see the Collector, Null, the symbiote god, cut off that celestial's head.
Null is his powers is on par with a Celestial.
Well, they already confirmed like Gore the God Butcher for Thor 4, so maybe.
Yeah, and his sword, I forgot what it's called. That was actually the first symbiote, and it belonged to Null.
Yeah.
Originally.
Yeah. So like at this point, like they would have to bring Null in at this point, because, you know, how else would you explain Nowhere's head being there, cut off and whatnot?
Yeah, exactly. And Venom already mentioned in the mid-credit scene for this movie, you know, symbiotes have a hive mind, but they've been
around for billions and billions of years.
Yeah, exactly. So they all go back to Null. He's like the next point for them.
The creator. He's their god. He's the creator. He literally woke up and boom, there they were.
And he's also kind of an alternative explanation for like the big white spider symbol, because in those comic books that he was introduced in, we find out that it was actually a dragon. You know, instead of spider legs, it's wings, and you know, it's horns.
Yeah. And it was just coincidence that it looked similar to a spider.
Yeah, and I think they did that just in case they, you know, in the movies that they couldn't someday do Spider-Man and Venom, but now they're able to, and you know, it'll still work.
All it is just one big coincidence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I wanted to say this when you guys are talking about all the Marvel stuff that is to consume. Yeah, I know how that feels, as there's a lot of stuff in the Marvel universe I still got to get caught up on.
Me too.
Like all the TV shows. But this seems to be a thing of superhero stuff around the world, because even in Japan, you have stuff like Ultraman and Kamen Rider, the popular stuff that gets gets plenty of movies and shows each year, or every couple years. But even the popular Japanese superheroes, I don't think really get so much in one year that you have to consume like Marvel does. Like in Marvel, you get a couple movies a year, a couple shows. So even though Japan still gives you a lot with their heroes in a year, it doesn't go to that level.
So what I tried to do, or what my approach is going to be moving forward, is I'm going to wait for something to release in full, like, you know, with these shows, and I'm going to pair it up with something that it has like some direct connection with. So like Black Widow is finally free on Disney Plus. I hear there's a character that shows up in that also shows up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so I would watch those together. And then WandaVision is the star of the multiverse saga, so that leads into Loki. That leads into, I guess you could say, kind of this movie, Let There Be Carnage. And then it definitely leads into No Way Home.
Which will lead into Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness.
Exactly. So I just try and group things together in like little chunks of whatever little story they're telling. Because that's pretty much what they're doing. Unlike with the Infinity Saga, where it all was one big tapestry, here they're kind of just doing little rabbit holes.
They're pretty much making another tapestry.
Yeah, indeed, but it also has its own little nooks and crannies that you can stop in for a little bit.
Hey, remember when this was just about a guy in a suit?
Exactly.
Remember the good old
yeah.
days when it was just about a rich kid in an iron suit and a super soldier and an angry guy? Man, those were the days.
Yeah, I was just a little kid when the MCU was new, and I did not think it was gonna become as big as it is today. I would have never freaking imagined it.
No one
It's
would have
not just
imagined.
big, it's huge.
Like
Yeah.
it's one of the longest fucking franchises out there. It's insane.
And it's fascinating that they built it all on what were considered B-list characters, because for the longest time, Marvel's big names were X-Men and Spider-Man, and everybody else was, like for the hardcore people.
Exactly. Now they got a massive community.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I'm still hoping the MCU could get stuff like Ghost Rider in, which if they do, I want it to keep that darker tone the Nicolas Cage film had intact, because I don't care what anyone says. That is a good movie.
Well, technically, with the whole multiverse thing, pretty much it means that Nick Cage's Ghost Rider's movies are pretty much canon already.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's out there somewhere.
Actually, Ghost Rider is sort of in the MCU.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Robbie
Yeah,
Reyes,
but
yeah.
I would like to. I don't think
You want
if
Johnny
anything.
Blaze,
I
right?
think that they're probably gonna have like the early like the Netflix shows probably be like their own universe and whatnot.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
speaking of Robbie Reyes, I still can't believe they canceled his show and we got
I would have loved to see that.
Yeah, that pissed me off because he was the best thing about season 4 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mhm.
yes.
And like the actor for Robbie Reyes was not that bad an actor either.
No, he's actually pretty great.
He did a really. It was a nice takeaway from the the usual like Johnny Blaze and whatnot to Robbie Reyes, who is the actual next Ghost Rider in the comics, and his story and whatnot, all the same down to the T. Like looking for vengeance against the people who tried to kill him and his brother, all the way down to his uncle. And it would have been amazing to have a Ghost Rider show, because Ghost Rider is one of the most powerful beings in the MCU.
He is, yes. He's also one of the more darker ones. Like, very little, you actually get a Marvel hero that kills people.
Like, I'm pretty sure like Ghost Rider is considered to be one of Marvel's Dark Knights.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons he's one of my favorite Marvel characters. He always has been. He's cool. He's dark.
This is aside from the fact that he just looks badass.
Yeah,
Who doesn't love a skeleton on fire wearing black leather and riding a motorcycle that looks hella awesome?
Yes, he looks badass, he sounds badass, and his personality and abilities are badass.
He is the definition of badass.
Yes, and that penance stare, I always love. Like
a penance stare to make even gods feel guilty.
Yeah, like your soul. Like this is the thing I loved about the Nicolas Cage film. Like your souls are stained. The voice where he says your souls are stained by the blood of the innocent and feel their pain. That always stuck with me ever since I seen the Nicolas Cage film.
Yeah, say what you will about the first Nicolas Cage film. Despite its obvious problems, it was good for its time. And even back then, if you have a little soft spot, it's still a pretty good film that has its great moments.
I have an unpopular opinion. I actually like both movies, and I love how weird Spirit of Vengeance is. It's if it wasn't a Marvel character, it is already kind of a cult film, but it's just so quirky and odd. And I actually kind of like the way he looks in that movie a little bit better than the first one.
I do prefer the way he looks in Spirit of Vengeance, but when it comes to the overall movie, I think the first blows it out of the water. As for me, Spirit of Vengeance was...
I got you.
Spirit of Vengeance for me was a mixed bag. There's things I liked about it, but then there's just such parts of the script that just don't make sense.
It's an acquired taste for sure.
Oh, most definitely.
Have y'all ever heard? Okay, this is something that all Spider-Man, Venom, and Ghost Rider fans should probably seek out. Have y'all heard of the? I think it's Web of Venom or something. It's a crossover with Ghost Rider, Spider-Man, and Venom. I think it was Spirits of Venom or something like that. It's a really neat comic book arc. It was after Johnny Blaze had retired from being a Ghost Rider, but he was still the mentor to Danny Ketch because he was the Ghost Rider at that time in the comic books, and they have a team up with Venom and Spider-Man. It's a pretty neat little arc. Y'all should seek it out. I'm gonna find out the name for sure, and I'll link it in the chat.
Yeah, I'll have to give that a watch. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
All right, but back to Venom. We're getting sidetracked.
Yeah.
Overall, just Let There Be Carnage is just an enjoyable film. Like really, really.
At the very
fun.
least, yeah.
I actually liked Venom's personality a little bit in the second film because you definitely notice right off the bat that him being with Eddie and hanging around people has rubbed off on him, and he starts to develop a little bit more of a human personality rather than in the first film. You know, there was moments here and there where, you know, in the first film where he, you know, like it was like he was talking just like a regular guy, but in the second film you really see that him hanging out with Eddie has actually rubbed off on him, like how in Thor Ragnarok, Thor was completely different than he had been in the previous films, and due to him, you know, hanging out on Earth and hanging out with people and then just rubbing off on him. You know, his personality is just changing entirely. I like that.
Oh yeah, the nightclub scene is like the definite proof of that. He's just out there. He's out there intermingling with people. He's getting on stage and talking. You know, he's you know, he doesn't just see them as food anymore.
Yeah.
Look at all these weirdos.
I loved that. I really loved that. And the part where Venom was just hanging out with the audience, he felt like he blended in for a change because he saw them as weirdos.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite line that he says in the entire movie is when they're about to do the final confrontation, and you know, like Carnage like smacks away Shriek for using her powers, and then he was all like, "Marriage trouble already?" That actually made me laugh a little bit. I actually enjoyed that.
Yes, I agree.
It was like, God dang, that's so hard, but it's so true.
Yeah.
And then, you know, then Carnage is all like, bro, it's like, die. And then he's like, we're going to die.
Yes.
But we're going to fight anyway.
That's the spirit. No, I mean us. We're going to die.
and then charge to battle.
Yeah.
But, you know, despite him saying that they're going to die, he actually held his own against Carnage pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But regardless, like, you know, it's the thing with the symbiotes. Every child of a symbiote that always becomes stronger, which in turn, you know, going back to Toxin, which is why Toxin is such a big threat for Venom, at least, because, you know, Toxin is the son of Carnage is the son of Venom, Toxin being Venom's grandson, therefore even more powerful. And it also depends on the host as well. The host definitely plays a big part of it.
And I think Toxin even takes on Noel in the comic books because he's like the strongest of that generation.
Yeah, it's like every generation of symbiotes always gets stronger.
Yep.
And if they manage to find their perfect host, then it's just lights out for the previous generation.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, despite Venom obviously having won against Carnage so many times, Carnage has proven multiple times that he is stronger than Venom.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because Carnage also has more abilities, as he can pretty much form whatever weapon he wants with his fucking hands.
Yeah. And of course, you know, rather than just being like a separate creature, you know, bonding with a host, he is a part of his host.
I mean, he formed a freaking cyclone in the middle of a prison, you know.
Yeah.
So,
and he hacked the internet.
And I just love how like Cletus just went along with the fact that he had something inside of him now, and you know, he's just all like, "And Warden, you tasted like ham." And it's like, you know what? I'm not even gonna bother. I like this already.
That was actually a riff on a Johnny Cash song, by the way. I mean,
oh yeah.
Huh.
But yeah, is there anything else we need to discuss?
Not that I know of.
Well,
what about you guys?
for now.
Well, no, but there is one thing that that just came onto my mind recently.
What was that?
there's a part in the film where Anne is calls Eddie to have dinner with her to like tell her that she's getting married with Dan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
Why
I
would you do
didn't
that?
think about it at first, but then someone else talked about it, and I was like, huh, that really is stupid.
Yeah, I was like, why would you do that?
Some
Yeah.
people were wondering why Anne was even in the movie still, but I guess they just wanted to have some of those, those comedy banner scenes between them. But really, she's brought back, kind of ultimately to just be a damsel in distress at the end.
Yeah, but she did help with some of the better aspects of the story. Like
That's
she helped
true,
with
that's true.
like her existence of being there simply helped it with Venom. Helped us get those moments of Venom sympathizing with Eddie, and which also led to Venom, by trying so hard to make Eddie feel better, doing stuff that increasingly pissed him off by accident. Which
Yep.
also ended up being she also ended up being the reason of how she ended up how he ended up getting reconnected with Eddie.
And I'm not gonna lie, it's always a pleasure to see She-Venom.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
even though she unfortunately didn't speak in this one, and
Yeah.
it's something that I brought up earlier.
It's always a pleasure to see She-Venom.
Oh
Which,
yeah,
Anne is actually She-Venom in the comics too. So,
that's true. And she
That
was pretty
explains
freaked
it.
out by that whole experience.
and
And,
it's like, you know what? I'm not. You know, this is a chance to see She-Venom on the live screen again. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna. You're not gonna see me complain.
Indeed. That's actually pretty deep cut, the fact that they put that in there. But I mean, they just want to mine whatever material they can, since they didn't have the whole Spider-Man story. They just thought, let's dive deep into his solo comic book stuff.
Here's another thing I've noticed. In the first film, there was people who complained that it was very hard to understand what Venom was saying. I didn't really know what they were talking about at first, but when I saw this movie, I kind of did.
So
Yeah, there were
basically,
some moments where
this
it was kind of
movie,
hard to hear what he was saying in both
I also never
films.
had that
Really,
problem.
it's
Yeah,
not until like.
go ahead.
Actually,
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I take it back. Maybe it's because I was in a Dolby theater, so.
Yeah, my theater had a very dark screen. I think there was something up with the projector. That was the only problem I had whenever I saw it. But for his voice, I actually thought he sounded a little bit more sinister in the first movie. Like that's what Venom would sound like if he was a villain. In this one, Tom Hardy really leaned into the drunk Cookie Monster / Bane.
Drunk Cookie Monster.
He also sounds a little bit like Hardy's Bane. I mean, he has.
Yeah, I saw that someone else pointed that out as well, that he sounded a little bit like Bane.
So he kind of leaned into the really goofy tone for the voice, and I kind of missed the little bit of the kind of. He sounded like a snake in the first movie sometimes.
Yeah, but then again, it goes. That probably has to do with the fact that in their year together, Venom has changed a lot.
That's
since they
true.
first met.
He's not quite as alien anymore. That's a good
Yeah,
point.
he's like been hanging around Eddie so long. Definitely, gonna pick up. Definitely gonna change him. Definitely.
I agree.
Another part one part I did like was like after like Venom left the building, he like totally destroys Eddie's motorcycle, and I was like, oh crap.
Oh, that was hilarious.
It really just boils down to the fact of what Dan said, like that they need serious couple counseling.
I wish I never met you.
Yes, that was hilarious because Brock even threatened to throw the chicken out the window, which pissed Venom off more.
I like how Venom basically, just flipped him the bird and was like, sayonara.
Oh yeah, I love.
Yes,
I love
like
their little fight.
sayonara.
I love their little fight. I love.
Yes, their fight was hilarious.
I loved when Venom broke his nose, and then Eddie just straight up bitch slaps him, and then fucking breaks his teeth with the helmet.
Yes,
and then
he
was like, "How dare you regrows teeth?"
Yeah, like I said, the humor of this movie makes itself quite at home. It never feels forced, and it fuses with the serious aspect well. It kind of reminds me of Kamen Rider Gaim in that regard, where the comedic goofy aspects actually blended in with the serious and more dramatic tone of the show by building up to that. Which I'm not sure how many of you seen Kamen Rider Gaim, but
Venom in general is very henshin hero to start with. I've heard other people who are fans of tokusatsu on YouTube say that the Venom reminded them of a henshin hero,
Well, yeah,
series.
Venom is a lot. Yeah, Venom is a lot like that, and I'd actually be interested to see a Toku series of Venom for that reason. Because an example of the blend of humor and this being reminding me of Gaim is, like, for example, one of the aspects of Kamen Rider Gaim being that it started first few episodes when Kolta gets that belt. He's fucking around with it, doing it to make life easier, but eventually he figures out the darker nature to that belt, and it nearly gets him fucking killed, and it turns out that thing is not to be messed with like it's nothing. And that's how the goofy comedy actually built up to the more dark and serious aspects of Gaim. The comedy here built up to the more dramatic aspects of this movie of what separated Venom and Carnage, and what pretty much put Brock in danger of being killed by Cletus Cassidy.
If they did a straight Toku adaptation of symbiotes and whatnot, it would probably be something like Kamen Rider Amazons, or probably even Garo a little bit. I probably mispronounced that, but
I heard from a Venom writer that appeared at Comicpalooza a couple months ago here in Houston that there was like a manga series for Venom. I don't know. He also said that he was excited for the movie, and he thought it was gonna be really good, and that he actually hated the first film.
I like the first film.
Well, I know, but he hated it, and then he found out he was being recorded, and he was like, "I take that back."
Yeah.
And then again, I don't think it was as awesome as he said it was, but then again, he was recovering from a hangover, so
fair enough.
I'm not sure about manga, but I know about the advertising campaign in China for the first movie. They kind of had this whole thing where they did like Venom as like the perfect boyfriend, and they had like these little animations for that. It was very strange, but yeah, it was odd to say the least.
Yeah.
Wait, Venom was a boyfriend or something?
Yeah, like they had this tiny little girlfriend. It was like this very stylized animation, and they had like these, like there was one little segment where they were in the rain and he was holding the umbrella for her and everything. She's like this perfect, Asian girlfriend stereotype.
Oh, okay.
Something like that. It was one of those odd things that I stumbled on. I was like, well, this is a way to sell it.
I gotta say that.
I'm gonna have to find it for you, Joey. But yeah, it was for the first movie.
My mind went somewhere else when you said like Venom was a boyfriend, because I was like,
wait. Oh yeah. Well, that's out there, but it's not officially sanctioned.
Because I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, wait a minute. This is China. They shrunk Finn on the poster. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, nothing makes sense.
Anyway, is there anything else we got to discuss?
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Last one, I think.
All right.
I think I like how Dan was a little helpful in this movie instead of like being in the background.
Yeah,
I mean, he was in the background, but he did.
I mean, Dan pretty much told him, "We like you too, Dan." Made sure to say goodbye to him.
I did think that Dan definitely did have like a little bit more. Was a bit more help. He was in the background, but he was in the background helpfully.
Well, the great thing about that in the first movie is that, the stereotype is that the new boyfriend is always like an asshole, right?
Yeah.
And he was actually really nice and helpful, and, was trying to, be like a bridge, I guess, in their relationship. He didn't just like write Eddie off. He was like, whenever he found out that there was something wrong with him, because he was a doctor, he helped out. That was refreshing, because it's a stereotype for the new boyfriend to just be a schmuck.
Yeah.
Which usually leads to the exes getting back together, which unfortunately was not the case in here. But
Thank
then
God.
again, of course, it's nice to see that it's nice not to see that stereotype be in play.
That in itself is refreshing. The fact that they don't end up back together. Well, mainly because it's pretty much Eddie and Venom that is the relationship there. But
yes, that's the relationship with the movie.
Yeah, exactly. So, but they're all still friends. They're all still friendly with each other.
Yeah, and I like that because usually when there's a relationship that breaks up in a movie, they either get back together or there's hostile feelings towards one another. But there isn't. There's no hatred at all, and they don't get back together. They're friends now, despite Brock being heartbroken by it at first.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, anything else?
No, I think we kind of.
Yeah, I think we covered it all.
That's all I got for today. Go away now.
Anyway, that was it for this episode.
I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
Anyway, that was it for this episode. Please comment your thoughts down below, and if you like this video, please hit that like button, share it around, and subscribe for more awesome content. Please feel free to check out my boys Trevor Thomson and Galix. Their channels will be linked in the description down below. I would plug JSP, but he doesn't really have a YouTube channel that he uses.
I mean, I do. I just haven't uploaded in a while.
I haven't uploaded in a while too. Forgive me. I've been busy.
Okay,
it's actually kind of the same with me. We have channels, but there's not a whole lot of content on there. But if you like what we said, please go and support us.
Yep.
And of course, also support Joey as well. He's the one that gets this whole thing together.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's always a pleasure talking with you guys because, again, it's just a bunch of nerds discussing our perspective on stuff that we love, media. So it's therapeutic in a way.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Are we ever going to do a Godzilla vs. Kong review, or have you done that already?
I try to do these Galactic Nerd Outpost episodes and stuff I don't normally cover on my channel.
Oh, okay.
Normally. So I'm planning to do a normal review of that, but if you guys want to collaborate for that, go right ahead. I'd be down for it.
Oh, yeah.
But that being said, this is Daikaiji Spacezilla leaving the building.
And I was Trev Tom.
I'm JSP, and if you want to know where I got that saying from, check out the Critical Drinker. He's pretty funny, actually.
Oh, he is. I love the Critical Drinker.
And I'm Galix, and I am going to leave this with a little good old saying.
Yeah.